All right, and welcome back to Between Frequencies, the space where science meets spirit and where we explore what it means to wake up, reconnect, and live from truth. Today, I'm joined by Sam, a psychic intuitive and former ICU nurse who now serves as a guide for quantum transformation. After a decade in critical care, that sounds like it makes you sound old. I don't like saying that, but I said it. Including frontline work during the pandemic, Sam saw firsthand how stress and disconnection erode our well-being. That experience ignited a powerful shift. She chose to stop masking, to remember her gifts, and to dedicate herself to helping people not just survive, but thrive in deeply aligned, intuitive ways. Her journey is anything but ordinary, from childhood experiences of communicating with animals and perceiving beings beyond the veil to a complete life reorientation in 2021. Sam has walked through breakdowns and breakthroughs that allowed her to embody what she teaches today. Along the way, she's embraced the messy, colorful, and sometimes wild side of awakening, proving spirituality doesn't have to be all incense and stillness. It can also be a bold Lisa Frank explosion for the soul. Now, Sam helps others snap back into their truest selves, clearing limiting beliefs, connecting with their cosmic besties, and remembering they're not beige desktop models, but bright, dynamic beings with infinite settings to explore. In this conversation, we'll talk about what it feels like to pull away the mask, the courage it takes to level up your life, and how intuition can lead to radical transformation. Why joy, color, and even human belong on the spiritual path. So whether you're just beginning to sense there's more to life or you're deep in your own reawakening, stay with us and let's get between the frequencies. Sam, thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello. I have notes from the notebook. I love it.
Notes from the notebook.
Yes. It's been a real joy to watch you. I came across you on TikTok. I'm curious, how long have you been on TikTok doing what you're doing?
Well, I actually started on TikTok. So this would be January of 2021 is when I started my TikTok account from nothing. And I stayed there for about a year before I added other socials. But yeah, TikTok is where I started.
That's really cool. So I kind of want to go along that line because you talked about 2021. And as a former nurse myself, I completely understand the idea of burnout because I've been there. Yeah. But I didn't work in the ICU and I haven't worked with COVID patients. So that's a whole nother level. Having spent 10 years as an ICU nurse, including during the pandemic, can you share what it was like to be in that role during that time and how it planted the seeds for the shift you eventually made?
Yeah. So I think it was very similar to a lot of other people's journeys. It was just the most contracting feeling, I think, imaginable, right? It was just the most contracted I had ever felt. And I've had some moments of pretty intense contraction throughout my life, but it squeezed me in a way that I couldn't ignore how I felt anymore. Cause I think in healthcare, especially, you get stuck in this role and you get stuck in this rut. And I heard constantly from my peers, nurses and other healthcare professionals alike, I want to leave, but what else would I do? You feel stuck because you have these very specialized skill sets. What else would I do? And so it made me re-examine medicine and healthcare, and it allowed me to see that modern medicine is actually quite medieval and not as helpful as I once thought that it was.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my own awakening was during COVID because of a misdiagnosis, right? And as someone in the medical field, I had put all of my trust in medicine. So when medicine betrayed me, suddenly all the bricks came down. And COVID, I think, was a catalyst for a lot of people. I heard that from a lot of people. You had a lot of time to yourself, And so there was a lot of thinking that kind of went on. And I think also with the feeling of death being so ever present in our culture like that, it's not something we were used to seeing. And I think it caused a lot of people to sort of re-examine how they were looking at their life when death was so in your face,
Yeah, because you never knew where it was going to strike or who was going to strike because, it was getting healthy people. It was getting the old. It was getting the young. It was getting everybody. And for a while, there seemed to be no rhyme or reason. So that was kind of a scary place to be, not knowing. So yeah, I remember very distinctively one shift in particular. I did travel nursing for a while and did travel ICUs throughout the country. And I was at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And I remember exactly where I was. I was on the neuro ICU. That's what floor I was working that day. And I remember what room I was in. I mean, it is a core memory for me. And we came out of a COVID room, me and a physician, and we degowned. We took off all of our PPE, and she looked at me and she just had this just deep pain in her eyes. And she said out loud what I had been feeling for months and months and months. She said, I just feel like no matter what we do, we're not helping. And we just stared at each other for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time to stare at somebody without saying anything, because we felt the same way and there were no words. And so that right there was my tipping over the edge point where I said, there has to be a better way. I can't do it like this anymore. And it was in that moment of that re-examining, once I got home and I was no longer in the hospital, to remember, this is going to sound so funny, I remembered I was psychic because I had shoved it deep down for so long, right? Not knowing what to do with it because the gifts felt so big and they felt scary and I just wasn't sure what to do with it.
Yeah.
So it forced me to remember that was a thing. And I go, oh my God, that's right. I'm actually really intuitive. And that kind of just set me on this whole journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, I've heard that a lot from a lot of people. Oh, I remembered that I was psychic. As, it's like we woke up, literally woke up from some weird dream that we were all trapped in for a long time. I love that. When you talk about your awakening, sometimes you talk about having dropped the mask, right? So something that I found a parallel for, because I'm such a nerd and I love research. I'm such a researcher. I recently came across this study showing that many women are diagnosed with autism later in life because of their extraordinary ability to mask, right?
Yeah.
What struck me is how often those late diagnoses seem to line up with another pattern that I've noticed, which is that many women experience powerful spiritual awakenings around that same stage of life. Once your children have become pretty self-sufficient, you don't feel like you're running on a fumes all the time. And suddenly you have this unexpected space to fill. And it's like everything rushes in to fill that. And I really find that sort of overlap between the mask dropping, the study with the autism, and the age in women. And even the way you describe how you approach your awakening, you sort of drop the mask and all that sort of stuff. Can you share what that period was like for you? Like that transition, like when you started going over, were there speed bumps, rumble strips, ditches? What happened here?
Oh yeah, there was about every speed bump, every rumble strip, every ditch, everything, because I had been ignoring it for so long, and I had built up just amassed really all of these roadblocks for myself, trying to be more normal, trying to fit in, trying to be successful in what the world deems as success instead of what I deemed as successful, So yeah, I had to very quickly and quite intensely re-examine literally every area of my life. I mean, within a matter of just a few weeks, I realized I needed to end a 9-year relationship. I needed to leave the healthcare field that I had been in for, I think it was like 9 years at that point. I needed to have a different trajectory for my life. I needed to start doing what brought me joy instead of doing what brought me money, right? I needed to start being more real for my kids. It was just literally every area of my life. I realized I have to start being myself, because it felt like I was suffocating, but of my own doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I was the whole time, but I wasn't conscious of it. I didn't realize it because I was trying to ignore it. So I had a lot of unpacking I had to do in a very short period of time.
Yeah. And I think society really normalizes the ignoring everything, the just plunge ahead, daily grind. You get into this routine, and it gets very hard to break out of that. I totally understand.
Yeah, because it's normalized, everybody hates their job. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. And you're not supposed to hate what you do for most of the hours that you're awake on this planet, but it's things like that make you think, oh, well, everybody's miserable. I'm not supposed to enjoy XYZ.
Right. And compliance is always rewarded in our society, right?
Yeah.
The more you comply, the more reward you get. So
that's the whole structure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you step outside of that, it makes everything feel very shaky.
Yeah.
one of the biggest steps for me and what things that I still work on is learning to trust myself and what I'm receiving. So,
Yeah.
coming from the medical field where everything is evidence based, show me the proof and then I'll believe it. I
Yeah.
want to see the studies, give me all the stuff, to a world where my guides are like, hey, you're funny.
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
how did you make that switch? Because for me, it's a mind pretzel for me sometimes to really do that.
Yeah, it really is. And I have this energy about me where I've always been what I call allergic to conspiracy theories. So it was hard for me to break out of what was considered normal, right?
Yeah.
And to venture into stuff that felt more real, even though we were being told it wasn't real, stuff like aliens, for instance.
Right.
And I know that sounds a little silly now, but even just a few years ago, if you said, oh, I fully believe there are extraterrestrials walking among us, they would want to put grippy socks on you and send you away.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that has been one of the biggest challenges. And I see this on a regular basis in my Soul Spark community because we have a group chat where they can like tag me and stuff like that, ask all kinds of questions. That is the biggest thing. And they're so cute in there. They actually made a little sticker that you can share in the chats. And it has the pink phone, the pink phone that we use sometimes. Yeah. It's in the background here, somewhere, yeah, right there.
Yeah,
right there.
I see it.
Yeah. They have the pink phone and it says, stop gaslighting yourself. And it has like, your guides are calling on the phone, because that's such a normal thing, right? Because it's been indoctrinated in us that all of these things that actually are real, we were told were witchcraft, and like witchcraft is bad, but we were told witchcraft is bad. We were told that it wasn't real, that if it wasn't science-based, it wasn't real. Science is just
slow.
It's slow. Science is us trying to catch up with what reality is.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Right.
1,000%.
So that has been a big thing for me. So what helped me at the very, very beginning of this whole entire journey, where I was learning to talk to my guides again, because I talked to my guides when I was little, which helped me re-engage when I realized, oh my God, I'm psychic. I forgot. Right. Was asking for confirmations. I made a deal with my guides. Now everybody would have to do what feels good for them. But what worked for me was I made a deal with my spirit guides and I said, okay, if you give me the same confirmation 3 times, like back to back, right? Not 3 times over several weeks, like maybe in the same day, maybe in the same few hours, like back to back, 3 times, I can't ignore it. That is my agreement with you. I will not ignore the 3 times confirmation, and I will just go full steam ahead in that direction and see what happens. So I allowed myself to experiment with that. And it worked so incredibly well, because then, you tell your guides, okay, this is how I'm going to respond to it. And your guides go, awesome, let's go. If that's what you need, then let's do it. So it was that, and realizing that if I went full steam ahead and it didn't work out how I thought, that I could always pivot, right? Because that wasn't a big limiting belief I had, that any choice I made was a permanent decision.
Yeah.
Right? It was just a permanent path that you're going to take. And that's not true at all, right? Hence why it's a limiting belief. But I had to work through that. So it was definitely that, right? Asking for those 3 confirmations in a row. And then also allowing myself to just explore to see what happened, right? What if I follow my gut instead of my brain? Let's just try that consistently for a little while. We'll try a few little gut instincts in a row and see where I'm at. And then I would reevaluate and I would go, oh my God, I'm so much happier. I'm so much better off. Things are working out for me so much better because I followed my gut and not my brain. And then I go, well, let me try that a few more times, and then a few more times. And then it just kept building until I proved to myself that following my gut was actually the aligned path and not following my brain.
Right. I love that. I really do love that. That leads me right perfectly into my next question, because something that is a huge misconception in the spiritual community is that it's all love and light and that you're having great days every day. And that couldn't be further from the truth if it tried. I know for myself, I have plenty of days where I just don't want to. I don't want to do anything. I don't feel like it. I'm not going to do anything. And I will sit myself down and I will watch terrible TV and eat terrible food. And it helps me feel better. But I think that's purposeful. So you talk about this sometimes, about how it's not all love and light. So can you tell us a little bit about that part of your perspective on that?
Yeah, 100%. Because this is a big misconception. Sure, it's love and light. Sure, that's part of it. But here's what I think. Here's the image that I'm seeing in my mind right now. When you are existing in the world, not trying to be in alignment, but trying to be in alignment with the world, right, instead of yourself, It's like on the surface, it's like standing on the surface of the earth, and everything out here can look like sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, but immediately under the surface, like a micro whatever centimeter beneath the surface, right, is just like all of your demons and all the scary things. And they're constantly causing rumbles in the ground and constantly causing you to stumble, but you're ignoring them and you're only paying attention to the stuff that's going on out here. When you awaken, what you're allowing yourself to do is to open up that ground underneath of you so all the demons can come pouring out, which can sound insane, but the demons have been there the whole time and they're messing with you the whole time. And then by demons, I mean like your shadows and your limiting beliefs and,
right,
you know, how you're not living your life in alignment, things like that. Right. But when you let them out, you can look at them and you can go, that's insane. I'm not going to let you live here anymore. I'm not going to let you exist anymore. So it's both the light and the darkness. Spirituality is about realizing that you have been encompassing the light and the dark the whole time. Even if you've been ignoring the dark, it's still there. But once you can look at the dark, confront the dark and realize the dark is going to be a part of me, then you actually have control over that situation to say, I'm not going to embody the dark. I just have an awareness of the dark. But when you are ignoring all that stuff and trying to fit in with the world instead of yourself, right, the dark kind of rules you and it does whatever it wants because you don't have control over it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I've been thinking for a little while, like shadow work needs a better name. Like I feel like it needs to be called power reclamation or empowerment training or something like that, because all of those pieces of your shadow are part of you.
Yeah.
But you give away your power to them when you allow your reaction to control the environment. Instead, when you integrate your shadow and you say, okay, I see this as part of me. Now what? Period. Now what? It changes it from reaction to response, and that shifts everything. And I think that's so important that people need to recognize that everybody goes through this. Everybody has things they have to deal with. And some of those things are going to be easier to deal with than others because a lot of it has to do with accountability. And I find a lot of clients struggle with that. It's so much easier to blame someone outside of us, you know?
Well, here's the thing. It seems easier for sure, right? It seems easier. And this is what I try when I was taking private clients. This is what I was trying to teach them. Yes, it seems easier to blame somebody else because it is a very jagged pill to swallow to realize that, you know, I'm the reason for all of my unhappiness. I'm the reason for all my shortcomings, not anything else, not because of the billionaires, right? I'm the reason, right? Or whatever the thing is. But once you can swallow that pill and look at it, then you realize I'm also the reason for my happiness.
Right.
And my joy. If you have full control over everything that makes you upset, you have full control over everything that makes you happy. So all you have to do is switch your focus, right?
Yes.
And it was really important to me when I was taking one-on-one clients to teach them that, you know, they would say things like, oh, damn, I found another shadow, right? And they would be like so upset. Oh, I found another stupid shadow. And I'm like, no, be grateful for that shadow. Be grateful that you found that shadow because now you know it's there and now you can heal it. You can transmute it. You can turn it into the energy it was meant to be instead of the energy that you created it to be, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really amazing when you find a shadow because then you're about ready to feel more like yourself.
Yes. You stop feeling like somebody has their thumb on you.
Yes.
And you can finally stand up. And while the process of standing up isn't always easy, it's always forward momentum. And that's the thing to remember. Even baby steps are still steps. It doesn't matter. Take a step, right? And that's a big piece that I think so many people want to skip over because it's not fun. It's not all love and light. It's not the sparkles. This is the part of spirituality that you actually grow from. This is the part of spirituality that helps you connect on a deeper level beyond just the surface of things. Because when you start to know yourself, then you know the universe because the universe is you, right?
Yeah,
so
that's exactly correct.
Learning yourself through that. And I love that.
Yeah. So if you want the love and light, you have to look at the darkness. It's the only way to get it.
Absolutely. We live in a dualistic universe and that's part of it, right? I love it.
Yeah.
So in my own experience, I know that when I first had my awakening, partially because I'm a nerd and partially because I wanted to know absolutely everything all at once. I tried to read everything from every teacher all at one time, and it was incredibly overwhelming. And I see a lot of clients that do this, and I think that's a pretty common feeling. And I think for me, it came from a feeling of like, oh my God, if that's true, what else is true? And I have to like read it all, but I completely overwhelmed overwhelmed myself. So I
Yeah.
try to give people a little bit better direction, slow down, pick one or two things. And I'm curious if you can talk to some people about what were some of the first things you did for yourself? Like, what are the first steps you took and resources you turned to?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you asked that question like that because about 10 years before my big spiritual awakening, my dad, um, who is a very unlikely source for this book, because he's a boomer and we have very different viewpoints on humanity. He introduced me to The Law of Attraction by Esther Hicks, right?
Oh,
Or
nice.
Abraham Hicks, I think is how the author's written. Yeah. And he said, you're going to think that I've gone crazy, but I need you, because we'd not talked about channeling or anything like that. And this was a time where I completely forgot that I was psychic or had any intuitive abilities at all. And he said, but I need you to get through about the first 18 pages. And then after that, just read it and see what happens. So I read that book and I go, okay. So my dad's lost his mind. That was like my first thought. He's completely gone crazy. It's about this lady channeling this spirit. And it felt so incorrect for me at the time. But that information was marinating in my brain. Although I wasn't ready for it, it marinated for 10 full years. And then when I had my awakening, I go, oh my God. And I just realized all these things from the book. And then I wanted to read it again, right? Because it's from a different perspective. So that one absolutely changed my life. That's a good baseline to start with for sure. But I started listening to people that I resonated with. It was really important for me not to listen to everybody because, like you said, that's so overwhelming and you're going to get just in the spins and you're not going to get anywhere. I paid attention to only the people who resonated with me and I looked to see what they were reading. Right. And then I would try to read some of that. So I just kind of followed my own path instead of listening to what people told me I should. I also noticed whenever anybody was on the internet, especially saying you have to do this or you should do that, they're coming from a very narrow, limited perspective. They're not very expansive. Right. And so when people are like, you have to do this or you have to do that, like you have to read this book or you have to believe this ideology, I found that never really resonated with me because I was looking to be expansive and not just like, what's the word? Replace one set of rules for another set.
Right. I was just thinking that's not much different than church, right? Like
it's exactly like church, but with a different name, right? Having all these rules. So, my biggest suggestion when people get overwhelmed on the amount of spiritual books is look at a big list of books. I do have a big list of books on my website and there are so many more you can read, but I can't put them all in there. That's so overwhelming. But if anybody wanted to go to spiritualitywithsam.com, I have a whole book rec list there and I don't get any money from it. It's just suggestions. Just look at them because I have the covers of the books on there. Just look at them. Something is going to jump out at you. Something's going to resonate. That's where you're supposed to start, right?
And trust it. Trust it. Yes. Trust it.
Trust it. It's jumping out at you for a reason, right? So follow your own gut and you're going to find your own path.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough. So this is going to sound very out of place, but I want to go all the way back to the beginning where you talked about your dad and the Law of Attraction book. Yeah. I have a very similar story. And I think this is something that most of us who have awakened, if we look back over our lives, we can see these little seeds of opportunity we had to awaken. So I have two very quick stories, right? Yeah. So the first one, when I was in my undergraduate, I was studying psychology and I had to write a capstone paper. And the professor at the time said, you can choose any subject, but it has to be a fringe religion, right? So I chose Doreen Virtue. Do you know who she is?
I do not know.
Doreen Virtue is an OG, right? So she has recently, in the last few years, gone back to Christianity, but she was one of Hay House's original authors, Angel Card. She said she would counsel you with your angels, right? So I, in my 3D physicality, got her book and wrote a paper about her and literally tore this woman apart. I used every psychological tool in the book to call her insane, crazy, all these things, right? Yeah. So I get an A+ on the paper, graduate. 25 years passes. I'm opening a brick and mortar store with my best friend. After my spiritual awakening, I've left the medical field. One of my friends walks in. He goes, hey, I've got these books because we had a library that we were going to have for people to borrow books. And he goes, I got all these books for you. I go, oh, great. And I opened the bag. It was like 6 Doreen Virtue books. And I started laughing so hard. I'm like, oh my God, I see it. I'm so sorry. Right. And then the other one is when my kids were little, I had taken them to the library to rent a movie. I don't remember what it was. And when we got home, the wrong movie was in the box, and it was
Ah,
Secret.
oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what is this? And I put it in and turned it on and started watching it. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this is ridiculous. And I turned it off and took it out. But
Yeah.
like, I think anyone, you can look back over your lives and these little tiny opportunities that you had to go in a different direction and you
Yep.
just didn't do it, And it's
Yep.
not to say it was bad or anything like that. I kind of
No.
like it. I kind of look at it like a game with myself now. Like, where did I miss my directions? Right. Like
Yeah.
that kind of feeling. So I think that's something I see with a lot of people. I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. It is really interesting.
Another really common thing I see with my clients is they don't understand why they have the behavior that they have. And I really believe that until you understand why you act the way you do, it can be nearly impossible to heal that pattern. This goes back to the idea of shadow work. So what are some of the ways that you particularly help people identify and start to clear limiting beliefs that might be holding them back?
Well, it's important for me to pay attention to the verbiage that people are using, right? Like if they say things like ADHD is a disability, it's not a disability.
Right.
It's not a disability at all. It's a superpower. And the second you tell somebody that their ADHD is a superpower, their aura literally changes, their color, their energy. You can see it shift in their body. Everything changes because it's like they're coming back online. It's like they're remembering, oh my God, I have a superpower. I have this special ability. It's not actually a downfall, right? It's society that is very controlled and very structured and doesn't fit around these neurodivergent people, right? It's not the neurodivergence that's wrong. It's the old societies and structures, not necessarily wrong, but just very constricted, very structured, right?
Yeah.
So it's just watching that. It's really all around limiting beliefs, right? When people use language like I can't, or I shouldn't, or it's too much, or I'm not going to be able to, or anything like that, I ask them why, who told you that? And it usually puts them on a completely new trajectory, completely new path, because they realize that's not my belief at all. I just borrowed it from somebody, right? Because a belief isn't true necessarily. Just because you believe it doesn't make it true. A belief is just a thought we kept on thinking, right? That's all that it is. So that's been the biggest part, I think, in helping people kind of awaken to the possibilities.
Oh, yeah. I think that's so important. The labels we give ourselves are heavy. They're very, very heavy. And it's really hard to get out from underneath them. And to your point, one of the things I try to remind people is everything's vibration, including what you say, right? And the frequency of the words that you speak is determined by the emotion behind the word. So if you are saying ADHD is a disability, the frequency of that word is much lower than if you say ADHD is a superpower, because of the emotion attached to the two words. It changes the frequency. You are literally in real time working with law of attraction. Why would you do that? Don't do that.
Right. I know.
Find a different phrase. There's a very different feeling behind I don't know how, and I'm actively learning, right? You can say I don't know how to crochet. But you can also say, I'm learning how to crochet.
Yes. Yeah. It feels so much better in your body. It feels way more expansive. It allows you to do it instead of shuts you down. And there's a lot of like idioms and things that we're saying. And a lot of this is by design, if not all of it by design. So this is part of the structure that we're all breaking down as more and more people are awakening. But like I would hear growing up the phrase, I'm trying to get sick. And it would bother me so much. And I said, why are you trying to get sick? They're like, oh, that's just what we say. And I'm like, no. Why would you try? Because even if you're not going to get sick, you're now telling your body, oh, we're trying to get sick. And then you make yourself sick, right?
All your cells are like, yes, ma'am.
Right. Exactly. So it's really important to examine the words that we say, because you're right. Everything is vibration, and like attracts like, right? So whatever you're saying, you're getting the same vibrations back to you.
Yeah, it's very important that people remember law of attraction does not care if you want it. It only cares what you're doing and what you're feeling. So be mindful,
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize law of attraction is working literally every microsecond of the day for or against you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always. It's always working.
Doesn't hate you, just doing what you tell it to.
Correct. Right. The universe does not hate you. It literally can't. The universe is neutral. Law of attraction is neutral. Right. It's just following your commands.
Exactly. I love that. So something I admire so much about you is the way you channel and how you interact with an audience. I've seen a couple snippets of some in-person events that you've done, and I really enjoy that. How did you make that step? What led you to do that from just, remembering that you were psychic? How did you get from there to doing this type of thing?
Well, when you ignore a big, strong ability, it's like a pressure cooker, right? And the lid is going to friggin' blow whether you want it to or not. And so I would get these little blips when I was in undergrad, when I was very much in my 3D self and not in my expansive self. And I would have these premonitions. I would have these dreams. Sometimes they were nighttime dreams, sometimes they were daytime dreams, but they were like these premonitions that I would get. And almost always they came true. Sometimes they wouldn't, but that's how premonitions work. Right? You're only seeing future possibilities. So it depends on how things play out. But I was starting to feel like I was going to go insane if I didn't share it. So I found two friends and I said, listen, these crazy things are happening in my brain. I just need to share them with somebody. So that way, when they come true, if they come true, someone else is a witness to this and I don't gaslight myself, because that's essentially what I was doing, right? I was talking it away, basically saying, oh, no, I'm imaginative, right? Or I'm logical and I can see the progression of the steps, right? So I would tell them these things, and then that helped solidify, because then I kind of had witnesses to this in a space that felt safe. And then I realized I was really enjoying doing that when I was just sharing this with friends, and it was just really, really fun. Yeah. And then I also realized when I came online out of the psychic closet and started my TikTok, right, and started being a psychic for strangers on the internet, which feels so wild that that's how I started. I just wanted to be able to provide people with these answers, not because I wanted to give them the answers myself, but I wanted to show them that the answers are there and anybody can get the answers. That was my whole goal, right? If I can get the answers, so can you, because I'm not any better than you. We're not any different at all, right? I've just tapped into this frequency. I've just turned the radio to this particular station. That's all that I've done. And so that was my whole goal, is to show people, hey, all of this stuff is available to all of us.
Yeah, I love that. I really do love that. That's something that I am still working on, because I'm still halfway in the spiritual closet. I have to be truthful. Like it doesn't seem like it because I'm all over TikTok and Instagram and everything, but I have private accounts that my family follows. Right?
Yeah.
And I have all these like sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws and nieces and nephews that literally have no idea. And I still, to this day, sometimes I struggle, because it's not like I hide it. Like, I don't want to say I hide it, but it doesn't come up in conversation.
Yeah.
It's not like they come up to me and go, so what are you doing these days?
Right.
They're either not interested or they just forget.
Yeah.
And when someone asks me, I struggle. Like, someone asked me today, what do you do for a living? And I stared at her for a second and I'm like, I don't know how to tell you that. And she goes, I don't know if I want to know if that's your answer. And I was like,
yeah.
Because for me, the word psychic has these negative connotations to it, because growing up, pop culture, they always made it seem like psychics were bad. So I'm reticent to use that word, because I can't predict the future. I can only tell you what I'm picking up in possibility. Yeah. And then for me to try to explain it turns into like a paragraph.
Yes. It's like a whole thing. Right.
It's a whole thing.
So I was in the spiritual closet with my family for a while, and then it just got to the point where I couldn't keep up with everything. And I go, well, I'm going to drop the facade, because I was exhausting myself. And I was like, they either are into it or they're not. And if they're not into it, that's their own business. But I had to be so exhausted by everything before I just stopped caring. So that took a while for me to get there. But I live in the freaking Bible Belt. So most of the people that live around me and exist in these spaces where I go, like for school events for my kids and things like that, right? When I'm out in the community, most of those kinds of people are not ready to hear what I have to say, right? So when I live in kind of a smaller city, and there's even smaller groups within this like school district and things like that. And, as your kids grow older, more and more people know you outside of your own little tiny circles and things like that. So people found out that I had left nursing, because that's a big, like giant, why would you do that? Why would you leave this stable income? It's not stable. Are you kidding me right now? Every single travel nursing contract I had got cut. Every single one got cut in the middle. It is not stable at all. That's just the story people have been telling. But anyway,
Yeah.
They're not ready for that conversation either. But I've found out that when they asked me, well, what do you do now? I heard that you're no longer doing nursing, right? You're no longer in the ICU or the hospital or whatever it is. I struggled for a while to explain what I did, but I found out that if I said something very neutral, like, oh, I have a spiritual coaching business,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to interpret that how they want. Religious people are going to interpret that as religion and go, oh, that's cool. I resonate with that. Non-religious people are going to interpret that as spiritual. That's cool. I resonate with that, right? People are going to see it how they're going to see it based on their own lens of perception. And then if they didn't ask any more questions, they weren't ready for more information. So I would let them lead that conversation, right? So then from there, if they asked another question, I would give just another little breadcrumb, and I would be very gentle with it because of where I live, and just the people here are not particularly open to that as much as other places, right? But it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And then I did have these limiting beliefs that everybody around me, especially people who go to church on a regular basis, would think, oh my God, that's of the devil. You're so evil.
Right.
That literally has not happened one time.
Yeah.
Not one time. And I live in a small town in North Carolina. So I've been surprised about that. Even the lady who cleans my house, which, my God, God bless her. I'm so grateful to have her. She randomly threw out the other day, oh my God, I follow you on TikTok. And she's very much a big church person. I go, oh my God, I like panicked internally for just a second. I was like, ah, like I felt perceived. And then I thought, that's so funny that I panicked. She's fine. She still wants to talk to me. She still wants to clean my house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. So it's also helped me re-examine my own limiting beliefs of how I thought people were going to perceive it, because people are more open than I thought they were going to be honest.
Yeah, I've run into more openness than not. That's true. I mean, living in Illinois, where I do, I'm just outside of Chicago. It tends to be pretty liberal up here. I do have family though that's religious, and that's where I struggle. My husband has a twin brother, and he and his wife are in the church, and let's just say they haven't come around in a while, and we haven't been invited over or anything, and it's kind of disheartening. But at the same time, what I decided is I don't have to defend myself, but I also don't have to argue with them. So if someone asks me, what do I do? Typically, my response these days is I'm a frequency and clarity coach, because I either get one of two responses. They either go, ooh, what's that? Or they get, ooh, what's that? Either way, I'm starting to separate out. So I just go, we don't have to talk about it. Let's talk about something else, and I'll just drop it. Or I get people who are interested. But it has been a struggle for me. And I completely understand, because when I left the university, I got the same questions. What exactly are you going to be doing if you left the university? Because working there gave me a lot of clout, like a lot of, I had a lot of letters behind my name, suddenly felt very important, And then when you leave that behind, it's like, oh, now who's going to back me up, right?
Right. Yeah. No, same. I had an extraordinary number of letters behind my name with all my certifications and all, you know what I mean? All of these things I had earned along the way. And then just to leave it behind, it just really confuses people.
It does. It does. But what it turned into for me was just very expensive pieces of paper.
Yeah.
That's all they were. They were wall decorations,
Yeah.
I am grateful for my education. Let me put it that way. I am grateful for my education. I learned so much about people, myself, what I don't want.
Yeah.
And it has helped me shape the direction I'm going, but it has definitely been an eye opener, this whole experience.
Yeah, I definitely am grateful for all the jobs I've had before. I was a teacher for a while. I was a professional photographer in Tampa for a while. And then I was an ICU nurse for a while. So I've had like all these lives kind of in this one life. And I'm grateful for all of them, because all of them molded me and shaped me and gave me experiences that I needed to get to where I'm at right now, but I just didn't need to continue those paths. I was ready for something else. So
yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like you said, way back, is every decision doesn't have to be permanent. You can change your mind. You can try something different. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to outgrow the things that you're doing,
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about Soul Spark. Other than having you at the helm, what makes it different from other spiritual communities, and what do people tend to experience as part of this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love my Soul Spark babes. They're so kind and loving and supportive. So Soul Spark is our online community where you can just get support wherever you're at for your spiritual journey. So it tends to be different from other we call it a membership, but you can come and go as you please, right? There's not any rules with that. There's very limited structure with it. It's different from other groups like this because you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. You're free to explore whatever you want to explore. We even have a thread in one of our group chats about religion because some people are deconstructing and some people are finding the commonalities, and it's a safe space for everybody, right? You can come from whatever angle and you really are supported there completely and fully because everyone seems to be learning from each other and growing from each other. And then at the same time, if you're in this particular group, this Soul Spark group, you can tag me in any of the posts and ask me questions and say, hey, Sam, I've got a question on this. Can you channel on that? And I'm channeling in there every single day, answering questions, talking to people and helping continue the conversation. So we have that, but then we also have these monthly themes because support and community, so good, so important, but you also have to be able to grow and expand, right? So each month we cover a new theme or a new topic to help with our own personal growth and expansion. And each Soul Spark member can meet that wherever they're at. Some people are quite involved and are posting in there every day. Some people lurk, right, and don't post anything, but they're still learning by lurking, which is also totally awesome. And I love that. And everybody in between. So October is Limiting Beliefs Liberation. So that's been a really, really fun one. So people are bringing up their limiting beliefs that they've discovered along the way, or they're saying, is this a limiting belief? And I help them discern, right, and discover. We also had like a shadow realization 1 month, and on their own, this community has started their own book club, so they're reading a book together that they just wanted to. So there's just all kinds of ways to get involved and engaged and have community with people who freaking understand it, right? And for sure you're going to be safe to explore whatever side of yourself that you want to explore here in this space.
That's fantastic. It sounds absolutely love. Is it on Facebook? Where is it? Through your website?
It's through my website. So our group chat is through Telegram. So that's very private, but it's through the website. And then once you join through the website at spiritualitywithsam.com, there's a link to join the group chat.
Okay. And then reflecting for just a second on the idea of getting overwhelmed with information. If someone goes to your website and they're looking at all these offerings, because you've got courses, retreats, events, all kinds of stuff, where do you recommend someone begin with you and your work?
Yeah, I would say think about what you want, right? Do you want community? Because if you do, that's Soul Spark. Do you want to take a couple of classes on your own and kind of just like pitter patter with stuff and figure out where you belong? Courses and classes. Do you want to just come and see me channel and get a feel for my energy, right? You can do that with deeper downloads. You can do that with in-person retreats, things like that. So you have to decide what you want. And then there's probably something that's going to fill that cup for you on that website.
Okay, fantastic. And then other than Soul Spark, what other projects or creations are you most excited about right now? Like what's the thing you're super excited about?
Yes, we are about ready to launch our very first ever expansion pack, which I love so much because I love the like throwback 90s vibes of the video games, right? I love Sims expansion packs. I bought so many of those when I was younger. Oh my God, I loved them so much. So these expansion packs are these bite-sized bundles at a very low cost that are a digital only product. So they're all on demand. And the whole thing with all of them, no matter what bundle you get or expansion pack you get, is going to be watch, meditate, integrate. So they're bite-sized bundles to expand yourself in whatever area. So there's going to be one on how to channel, right? So you're going to watch a video and I'm going to explain the channeling. Then I have a guided meditation that's going to help you tap into your channeling side, right? And then there's an integration post where you reflect or you journal or something like that, but it's all very, very guided, right? So there's going to be 3 steps for each of them. So that way, in a world in which everyone's feeling very, very overwhelmed with things, right? You have these bite-sized pieces where you can keep propelling yourself forward. So it's not like a 6-week course like Manifestation Mastery is on the website, right? Because not everybody has the spoons for that, right? Not everybody has the capacity for that, feeling so overwhelmed. So bite-sized pieces to grow in various ways.
Fantastic. That sounds really fun. And then last question, I'm going to ask the question that everybody asks, right? If you could offer one piece of advice for someone who feels like they're stuck in masking or just starting out on their spiritual journey, what would you tell them?
The people who are going to judge you are going to judge you no matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to fit in or trying to be yourself. It literally doesn't matter. They've already made up their mind if they're going to judge other people. And to that point, when someone judges you, that's actually none of your business, because that doesn't say anything about you at all. And all that does is say everything about that person who's placing that judgment. They're just putting their own shadows on display, their own limiting beliefs on display. That's all that it is. So if people are going to have their positive or negative viewpoints, regardless of what you do, you might as well make yourself happy, because you're not making anybody happy by trying to make other people happy, because you literally can't. Each individual person is responsible for their own happiness. So follow yours, because if you don't follow yours, nobody's going to follow it for you.
Oh, I love that. Nobody's going to follow it for you, fool. Get up. All right. Well, Sam, thank you so very much for being here with us today. I appreciate it. Everybody, all of her links will be in the notes for today's show. Make sure, please, that you go and show her some love. She's absolutely fantastic, and I love watching her. I told her before we started recording, I'm a lurker on her videos, but I do very much enjoy them. So please go check her out, and I will see you guys next time.